right, game 2 is in the books, and that was a game. That was a game. Game 2, Miami walked away with the victory 111-108 over Denver. And for everyone who thought this series, I know I said it last video, but if you thought this was just going to be some lame series, y'all got to look beyond just the names and understand the teams, because that was a game to watch. That felt like playoff basketball. That felt like NBA Finals basketball. That was a fun game to watch. Was it a perfect game? No. Was it a perfectly officiated game? No, and I'm going to get into some of that. But this was an excellent game to watch, and I'm going to get into why and what happened through it. But before I get into that, as always, be sure to drop a like, a subscribe, comment down below. I am trying to get to 500 subscribers. I've been told that if you kind of relate to people and tell them what your goals are, you tend to do better. So I'd like to hit 500 subscribers within the next 2 or 3 months. If y'all can make that happen, that would be great. So if you're not subscribed, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. If you are subscribed, I appreciate you. Keep rocking with the videos. But starting with this game, full disclosure, I did not see the first quarter. I thought the game came on at 8:30, and as I was on the way back home, it was about 8:20, and I checked ESPN, and the game is in full swing. So I did not see the first quarter, but to my understanding, Max Strus went crazy and basically backpacked the Heat for a large majority of it. But Denver was right there, as was the story for most of this game, not letting them get too far ahead. But Max Strus really put on a showcase for the Miami Heat. Going into the second quarter, which I saw from the second quarter on down, Jamal Murray went crazy to start the second quarter. About that midway point, he had 8 points, was murdering Miami in the zone defense. And Chris Brown, white Chris Brown, was having a great... Is his name Chris Brown? I call him Chris Brown because his name is like pronounced Braun, but it's actually pronounced Brown. How do you say his name? There's Bruce Brown, Chris Brown, Bobby Brown. Okay, Christian Brown. I thought it was all right. Chris Brown really gave the Nuggets good minutes. So Jamal Murray, Chris Brown played really well, but then Miami won a 12-2 run. And what really helped with that was Jimmy Butler came back in the game and didn't do a whole lot offensively, but defensively really did a good job once Jamal got cooking. Got on him, slowed him down, really had Jamal quiet the entire rest of the quarter. Now, that didn't just stop the Nuggets from doing what they did, but it did kind of take some of the air out the building, take some of the heat off the fastballs that Denver was throwing at Miami. Denver, and with Miami on a 12-2 run, Miami decided they just wanted to screen Denver to death. It felt like every single time there was an illegal screen here or there called, but every single Miami possession came off a screen, which, hey, if it works, it works. But it was just something I noticed watching. I'm like, they are just running them through. It felt like the Warriors trying to guard Steph, just running them through 5, 6, 7, 8 screens every single time. Jokic, though. Jokic played very well defensively. And it wasn't so much, with the thing with Nikola Jokic, it's not so much that he's going to stop anybody from scoring. He's not a Giannis. He's not a Joel Embiid as far as a center where you know you can put him on someone and more times than not good things will happen. But it's the fact that someone Jokic's size, somebody of his body mass, his body type, that he can stand in the lane, and when they're in their zone look, that he can stand there, kind of move back and forth, but prevent a lot of things at the basket from happening. And that was the story with the Miami Heat for about 2 or 3 quarters, where a lot of drives, it's not going to show up in the stat sheet, it's not going to be blocks, it's not going to be him stripping the ball from somebody, but he turns a lot of people around from going to the basket. Jimmy Butler, Max Strus were the two that I saw it happen quite a few times, where they're driving and Jokic is right there, and then they make decisions. Immediately making decisions when they see Jokic standing right there under the basket or coming out towards them. So he did an excellent job with that for the second, the third quarter. I'm going to get into why I don't really see why the Denver Nuggets went away from that in the fourth quarter. Going into the third quarter, though, Miami just matched Denver shot for shot. Denver would make a 3, Miami hit a 3. Denver hit a runner, Miami hit a runner. It was just back-to-back offense. Defensively, no one could really gain any ground, but that helped Miami kind of at least keep pace with Denver for the third quarter. There was a play which I thought really showed the grit and hustle of this Denver Nuggets team, where KCP, Jimmy Butler got a steal, is running down, and more times than not, as we've seen in this playoffs and throughout most of his career, when he gets a steal in transition, the bucket's essentially good. KCP ran all the way down at the last second, slapped the ball out of Jimmy's hand, causing him to fumble it and lose it. And as I wrote that note down, it just made me say, this is the true grit of a team that looks like they're possessed, looks like they're hungry, is on a mission, and wants to win the title. And it was for a little bit until we get to the fourth quarter, but with that, both teams got very careless in the third quarter with the basketball. I don't know exactly how many turnovers each team had. I know that Denver at one point had 11, Miami had 9, about midway through the third quarter. But one other thing I wrote down, look, Nikola Jokic. For about 3 years now, I've been saying Giannis is the best player in the league, and honestly, I gotta say, Jokic probably has it. I mean, I think he finished the game with about 40, but every shot he took, it just looked too easy. It was touch, it was finesse, it was direct. I'm telling you, Jokic is one of three things. Either he's a magician, he's a metahuman, or he knows the ways of the force. Because every single time the ball went out of his hands, you just counted it. It's good. If he's within 5 feet of the basket, it's good. From 3, you know it's a good look. Mid-range, falling away from the basket. Jokic is unbelievable. This isn't just all-time great. This is mythical stuff we're watching from him. And I'm glad that I get to see it. It's a privilege. I don't use this term often. This is truly generational basketball that we're seeing from Jokic. Sensational performance, but unfortunately, it was not enough. And before I get to that fourth quarter, there was a play late in the third with about 20 seconds left. Jokic had the ball, and he brought it over his head and pump faked it. The entire Miami defense froze. And it wasn't a freeze where it's just like we're ball watching. They immediately ceased to move, and you saw everyone's face. It was almost like fear. Bam looked like he was talking to God as Jokic was about to pass the ball. Like, he just stopped. All eyes were him, and it's just amazing to see how he has this game on a string. It's just easy for him. Then the fourth quarter comes, and Sheen, Estevez, Duncan Robinson, 8 straight points to open the quarter. Hit a 3, hit another 3, hit a jumper, looked unstoppable. Just came out with the flamethrowers. I think he only had 10 points for the whole game, but did he have 10? I know he had 10. It was a 10-2 run for Duncan Robinson versus the Nuggets to open the fourth quarter. Miami got a lead, and they started flopping a little bit, but that was kind of annoying. Something I wrote down. They started just jumping on the ground, flopping, but they did claw and scratch their way back into the game. And the one thing I talked about earlier with Jokic defensively, how he just is that big body in the lane, and Miami started to get him in the high pick and roll, but there were times where he was even in the lane and he didn't go out to meet whoever had the basketball driving to the basket. It just seemed like he wasn't as engaged. I don't know really why he stopped doing that, especially when he only had 3 fouls. But Denver essentially just fell apart. There was a goal-10. Wasn't called, but it should have been a goal-10 by Bam. And I'm mad because as a Lakers fan, if that had been AD, they'd have called it every single time. But what Miami essentially did was they found a way to say, we'll let Jokic, really what Denver did in game 1. They said, we'll let Bam score as many points as he wants, but we're not going to let anyone else beat us. And it was a reverse process with this game, where later in the second half, most notably the fourth quarter, Miami said, we'll let Jokic score as many points as he wants, but we will not let Jamal, Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon, Bruce Brown, even though he played pretty well, we won't let any of them try to take this game from us. And that's essentially what happened, because when you look in the third quarter, Aaron Gordon, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr. combined for 6 points total. Each one scored 2. Then in the fourth quarter, before Jamal went Super Saiyan Jamal Murray, with like a minute left in the fourth, you had 8 points. 3 from Aaron, 5 from Jamal, nothing from Michael. So if you can keep 3 players for essentially 2 quarters to go, well, if you want to say 2 quarters, 23 minutes to combine for a grand total of 14 points, you win. Like, and that's essentially what happened. Shots started falling for Miami. They iced out everybody else. Jamal almost single-handedly won them that game. I know Bruce Brown hit a clutch mid-range shot, but essentially Jamal single-handedly dragged them within 3 points. It was just too little too late. And for most of that game, I was saying on the couch, all right, Jamal, whenever you want to start playing basketball, your team will be ready. He never really showed up. So with that, I had said earlier that Denver showed the grit of a champion. Miami today showed us that they truly have that grit, that dog, that fight as well, because they never gave up. And if you ask a Celtics fan, if you ask a Knicks fan, if you ask a Bucks fan, the one thing you do not want to do is think at any point in the game that Miami is done, because if you let them hang around, they will come back and make you pay. But with that, we officially have a series. Like I said in the last video, it's not a series until somebody wins a game on the other person's home court. That happened today. We're tied 1-1. Denver goes to Miami for the next game. And we're going to see what happens next time. So until the next video, take care. Peace. Make sure to like, subscribe, share, and I'll see y'all in the next video.